Now, if there's one book every true libertarian likes to cozy up with on a cold January night, it's the novel Atlas Shrugged. You think they should get out a bit more, don't you? It was written by Ayn Rand, who claimed to have invented a new code of morality based on reason alone. It's a bit scary. In the latest in our series looking at influential political thinkers, here's the broadcaster Charlie Wolfe talking about Ayn Rand.
These days, there is a huge market for books about unleashing the power of the self, the potential of the individual, and that is essentially the philosophy of the American author Ayn Rand. And I've come to Borough Market in London to meet a commentator and broadcaster who says he can explain her philosophy through the medium of lettuce. So Charlie, why do you like Ayn Rand and what does she have to do with lettuce?
Well, first off, The Fountainhead was a book that just changed my life. It was a book I could not put down. But as to the lettuce, my father was a greengrocer. Maybe you've had this happen where a parent says something that seems so innocuous at the time that holds great meaning. He was stacking lettuce one day in his shop and he turned to me and he says, "You know why I made a pyramid?" I said, "No, Dad." He said, "Because I can. I'm my own boss. No one tells me how to stack the lettuce." So that simple act of stacking the lettuce was so Randian in that he was the author of his own destiny. No one told him how to stack the lettuce.
Okay, that was a pyramid of lettuce. Let's take you to a steel and glass pyramid. Not far from here, the Shard, which also has a lot to do with Rand.
Okay.
Ayn Rand was a Russian émigré, fiercely anti-communist, unconventional in both her thoughts and lifestyle. Even her fans found her tricky. But Dr. Elizabeth Fraser of Oxford University says her books, The Fountainhead and Atlas Shrugged, were powerful.
She's inspirational. Her vision of free market society has inspired so many people. Very, very controversial. But if there were a prize for the author who's got the most people saying, "I read this book and it changed my life," she would win it.
Well, Charlie, we are now surrounded by the most incredible view from the Shard restaurant in the Shard in London. But I'm just wondering, what was Ayn Rand's worldview?
Her worldview would have been the people that built this view, that built the Shard. She loved heroic men of vision that had intellect. And this building in particular, if you go up, it's a cathedral, not to God. She was an atheist, but a cathedral to the powers of mankind. Men were her gods.
She tended to present philosophical ideas as though they were her own invention, and that really estranged serious thinkers and serious politicians as well. It was extraordinary that she refused to cooperate politically, including with people who really liked her ideas and would have liked her to be a figurehead for new conservatism in the 20th century. She was very sectarian and capable of being very nasty.
However nasty, though, how many other political philosophers have had their books turned into a movie with its enigmatic catchphrase, "Who is John Galt?"
My metal, your railway. It's us who move the world.
Atlas Shrugged is all about railways, steel and building a bridge, but a little bit like the one we're standing next to, which is a little ugly, a little grubby. People seem to think that Randian philosophy is a bit the same, supremely selfish. Is that fair?
No, not if you define selfishness the way Ayn Rand did. Selfishness is about the self, being true to your own ideals, taking care of yourself first and foremost, not living off the state, not living off of others. I think it's a more nobler way, and if you could do that, think of how the welfare rolls would shrivel up, how society would be more better off. It's, I think, a far better philosophy than living off the state.
Now, it's not just that many wouldn't agree with that, but in October 2011, some were prepared to camp out on the streets in front of St. Paul's Cathedral to demonstrate their opposition to such views. But actually, Rand herself predicted all that.
So Charlie, we've come from the Shard, a cathedral, if you like, to man's ingenuity. Here's a real cathedral, St. Paul's, but she wouldn't have gone in there because she was an atheist. There's a cathedral to Mammon, if you like, the stock exchange over there. But the reason we're here is because of something that happened recently that you think makes Ayn Rand relevant to today.
Yes, if you look over to the side of us is where the protesters were, the uncut and the 99%. And she described in her books this dystopian state, this welfare state. The leechers and the moochers. The moochers were the ones wanting the money, the entitlement state. The leechers were people like the church or the government demanding on a moral imperative that companies pay more tax and give more money. It's easy to be altruistic with other people's money. This was a dystopian welfare state that she described in her books, the collectivism that she hated. But the answer also that she did give was she said, it's trade, it's commerce, it's jobs, it's a flourishing economy. That's what lifts people out of poverty, not giving them money. That's why Ayn Rand is relevant for today.
By the way, who is John Galt?
Oh, Charlie Wolf joins us in the studio now, so let's, and what's the answer to the question? Who is John Galt?
Who is John Galt? That is the question. Well, in the book, this is the man who stopped the engine of the world, who went on strike and took his capital with him, and showed that, you know, as much as people make derisive comments about the movers and shakers in the world, the Starbucks and the Amazons and the Bill Gateses, these are the guys that are, you know, for a want of profit, are making the economy move, and we need them, and they're very beneficial. And the whole premise of her book is, what if these people all took their property and took their assets and just went on strike? Where would the rest of us be? And it would be a dystopian state.
But what would they do?
Oh, in the book, they all went off to this magic island somewhere. You know, it's a bit of a science fiction novel. You know,
Or was that the Isle of Wight? No?
Could have been. Could have been.
So it is a kind of there's a bit of science fiction involved.
Yeah, it's a part science fiction. There's, you know.
But, you see, if you're on the right, you look at Rand's critique of collectivism and Marxism, and people on the right think, yep, she got that absolutely right. But when she comes herself to say what kind of society we should have, it seems a bit extreme.
Well, you know, funny enough, when Atlas Shrugged came out, it was hated on both the left and the right. William F. Buckley Jr. had commissioned about 13 articles against the book. You know, the right thought she was godless and what have you. The left thought she was selfish. You know, so there is extremities in objectivism, but you know, I take it for what it's worth.
Extremities in objectivism.
Well,
does that mean?
you know, I think because she was trying to, in a fictionalized fashion, lay out this, there were extreme positions. She's trying to keep to an ideology. For instance, I don't believe in her atheism. I don't believe in her position on abortion. You know, but from a...
So she's not an icon of the social conservative right in America.
Oh, no. Oh, no. She's the libertarians love her. But
right.
Actually, funny enough, when she was alive, I think she didn't have much time for libertarianism. Don't ask me why, but she didn't.
But she wrote, trade is the only proper basis of any relationship. Now, that Adam Smith said roughly the same, that it's not from the beneficence of the butcher or the bread maker.
Right.
He does it because he wants to make a profit, but
Exactly.
you get it. But she then adds, including relationships with members of our families.
Yeah.
Now, Smith would never have said that.
Probably not. Though if you look again in Atlas Shrugged, Hank Rearden, his family was mooching off of him. So, but I agree with you. There's a lot of Ayn Rand, you know, it goes very much out on extremes, and you take from it what's important. And the important stuff for me was that, as The Fountainhead displayed, Fountainhead was a gripping novel, that we have the power within us to accomplish whatever. You know, her heroes were heroes, and her villains were villainous because they were socialists.
How much was she influenced by the fact that her family's pharmacy business was confiscated by the Bolsheviks when she was a child in what became the USSR?
Probably a lot. She saw collectivism firsthand. She hated anything to do with the communist state. The only thing she took with her that, again, I find hard to understand from the communist state was her atheism.
In a sense, though, you're almost in the mirror image position of Owen Jones when we had him on the program, because Owen Jones came on with Marx, and of course he wasn't endorsing Marxism and in read Incluth and Toll, but he said there are things that we can learn from it. You're saying the same. You've taken another, which seems to be a rather extreme ideology as a polar opposite to Marxism, and saying, oh, well, I don't buy it all, of course, but there are bits of it that are good.
But I'll say this much, and it's interesting you bring up Owen Jones, because, yeah, we've gone from left to right. The problem with Owen Jones's theory is it's inimically wrong. It does not work. As Thatcher said, socialism is destructive and
You really think an Ayn Rand society would work as well?
Well, but hold on, let me just explain why. A very good experiment happened back in 1620 with the Pilgrims when they first came to Plymouth. People don't really know this bit of history, and actually I'll put up some quotes on Twitter later. They practiced collectivism when they first got there, and they almost starved after 2.5 years. They had this theory of everybody will take an equal portion. No one worked. And finally, after 2.5 years, the governor, Bradford, I think it was, got rid of it and parceled out land and said this Platonian theory of the community and all for one doesn't work.
Okay.
And this is what Thatcher said and Hayek said.
I understand that, but that comes back to, that's the Rand criticism of collectivism. I understand that. It's what she would have had in its place that I was asking you about, which seems to me to be is weak in its own way in the right, as Marxism turned out to be.
I think...
Let me bring, you've had a fair crack, I think you agree
sure.
on that. Ayn Rand, is it under your pillow every night?
Everything I know about Ayn Rand, I've learned from the 2005 computer game BioShock, which addresses exactly this point. It's a city built under the sea, which actually, funny enough, quite a lot of Silicon Valley enthusiasts now want to build cities on the sea in international waters.
Well, if that earthquake happens, it will be under the sea.
Well,
they won't have to move, will they?
But they have exactly that problem. It's all the winners of society all go and make their society together. But the problem is, it is exactly as Rand describes. There is no family loyalty. There is no kind of altruism. Everybody is purely there for themselves. And a society that's only made of people who are there for themselves cannot function.
The problem I have with Rand is the same problem I have with Marxism. I mean, they're extremes. I mean, from what I know of Rand, she's Margaret Thatcher on speed. She almost makes it cool to be selfish. And, you know, I'm looking at some of the quotes today. One of the quotes was, before you can say I love you, you have to think of I. And then she says that there are three places in an argument. One is right, one is wrong, the middle is evil. So I don't agree with that. I think sometimes if we talk about selfishness, people on claiming welfare benefits and having 22 kids are being selfish, but they rely on the generosity of others, which is somewhere in the middle.
All right, we're going to have to move. We'll leave it there. Thank you for
doing
Ayn Rand. You can watch the rest of our series of films on political thinkers on our website. That's bbc.co.uk/dailypolitics. And thanks.